Hello there, ringside crew.
Hello there, ringside crew.
Hey dudes at ringside crew, this is Davian.
Hey, it's Jenny Santana.
This is Elsie.
This is the Savage Juggernaut, Tamaku.
Inside Ring!
This is Thomas D. Bruff.
This is Billy Starks.
Mr. Chad Epic.
Megan Mason.
Hey everybody, Scotland's own Brody Adler.
The headliner in charge, Marco Mania.
This is your girl Charisma.
Papa Dink, Brendan Dicker.
This is According to Woods.
Savannah Summers.
I'm Shorty.
Tasman is sad.
You are watching
The internationally known
Dudes at Ringside podcast, hosted by Metal Geek and Joe the Panther Jr.
Hello there, wrestling fans. Welcome to another episode of the internationally known Dudes at Ringside podcast. I'm your host, Joe the Panther III. And now from the top of Metal Mountain, all the way down to all 50 states and the globe, it's the happy himself, the Metal Geek.
What's going on, Ringside Crew? What's going on, International? What's going on, everybody? What's going on, Joe? How's it going today?
Not too much, man. You know, this UK Wrestling Month is so much fun, dude.
Yeah,
we've met so many people so far, man.
Yeah.
But let's have you introduce the guest today.
Let's give a warm Dudes at Ringside welcome to our guest, Nathen Cruz.
Thanks very much for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
How's it going?
No problem, man.
Welcome to the
show.
show.
If our fans are not familiar with, why would they not be? Introduce yourself.
Yeah, I do you know what? I hate doing this stuff. I feel like I'm just putting myself over. But no, yeah. So I've been a professional wrestler now for 16 years. I started when I was 15 years old. Turned professional when I was 19. It became a full-time job when I got to come by All Star Wrestling. You might be familiar with my work from Progress Wrestling. I was their first ever champion, and I had a good run in the tag division there in 2015, 2016 as part of the Origin. WOS, the big return to national television over here, not over here because I'm in America at the moment, but back in the UK, World of Sports relaunch in 2018 that aired on national television. I was part of that, and the subsequent tour that came after it, New Generation Wrestling UK as well, being a big part of them. So yeah, those would be the promotions that you would know me. I'd say that I'd be known from the most. That have had like international appeal, at least to because I imagine. Well, I suppose you said like you said before this, you actually have a lot of British listeners, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay. All right. So yeah, they may know. They may have know of my name already.
You've also been wrestling for Defiant as well.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. So this is it. There's so many promotions in 16 years now, where it's like you start forgetting about a few. But yeah, Defiant was a lot of fun. I was kind of upset coming out of the pandemic to hear that they shut down, because I really enjoyed what I got to do there, and where we was eventually going to go in the future, building like just before the lockdown. But yeah, it was good. I really enjoyed my time at Defiant.
Did you happen to work for it when it was WCPW or?
No, it was Defiant when I came in.
Yeah, it was Defiant. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it was later.
So Simon Miller was like the general manager, right?
I don't know what he was doing when I first came in. I just remember we got put together in a Ringmasters tournament, and he recently spoke about this on his YouTube channel. And it was one of his I think it was his very first singles match. And it was, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and like it was one of those that I hate calling myself a veteran, because I'm not, because I consider so many other people above me. But you do get in those situations of at that time. This is Simon Miller's first singles match, and it was my somewhere in the thousands. Like I've done over 1,800 matches now, so this would have been somewhere over 1,000. And and you're guiding someone through it, and create and teaching them teaching them on the job about what the magic of this can really be, about listening to your audience and rewarding them at the right times and things like that. And and just how well Simon did follow that direction. And yeah, it's such a good dude. Like I really did. I was really proud of that match just because of. I remember the promoter after it saying like you wouldn't have guessed that was Simon's first singles match because of how I managed to help him get through all that, and that was a huge compliment to me, and I take praise like that. Like those are the type of things that I strive for, that I work for.
That's amazing, and that goes to prove how good you really are, because to like help somebody throughout their first singles match, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It was like say it was it was. I think at that point I'd been wrestling like 14 years. So yeah, I'd been and I'd done quite a bit in that time as well. It was quite noteworthy. So I was confident in that position, but just seeing it back and for the first time and seeing how well we did get, to say that was his first singles, I was like, actually, no, I'm really pleased with that, and credit to Simon as well for keeping up. Like that's like a big part on him for still being able to go and follow that direction.
You cut the heel promo after wrestling A Kid was absolutely awesome, by the way. That heel promo was absolutely epic, man.
Well, thank you. Like that's kind of what I want to get under people's skin. I want to, whenever I've made a career, I'd say as a heel, that's been predominantly what I've done. I've worked babyface in a few positions, but the heel is where I've always found like the gold stuff that I can do, and getting under people's skin and giving me a microphone and time to do that. And I absolutely love that. It's cool that you've remembered that promo in particular.
Yeah, that promo. It's like he's like, no one's gonna remember you when you come back or something like that. And then you said, but I'm still gonna be here, and I'm gonna still be here kicking people's ass. Absolutely awesome, right? You can go to WWE.
You get
I can't even remember them. This is the thing. Like, I'll be just told, "Oh, you've got a promo to do tonight," and I don't normally plan my promos. I just go out and do them. Like, I know I'll have key points that I'll have to get to at some point, but I just go out there and just, all right, and I kind of know this character well enough now that I can just kind of wing this.
Yeah, you wrestled some big names too, right? Like you wrestled Zach Gibson, A Kid,
Yeah. There was it's on my YouTube channel, I think, actually. Me and Zach Gibson had a wrestled to a 20-minute draw way back now. I think it was like 2014, 2015. And at that time, it was one of my favorite matches. I just remember thinking we just had great chemistry together, me and Zach. And anytime we was either a tag team, where sometimes at Progress, or we was wrestling against each other, just somebody I absolutely loved getting into the ring with, and had the opportunity to on a number of occasions, and it was just always instant chemistry with Zach.
So we totally jumped. You totally jumped the questions, Geek.
I'm sorry. I got excited about it.
We introduced you, and then like you forgot to ask who trained you. Like,
oh God, I'd rather we don't talk about that.
Okay,
So you got to remember the time period that I'm talking about is like 2005, 2006, and the internet's around, but it certainly isn't what it is today. And trying to find a reputable trainer at that time was difficult, particularly in the area that we live, because it's not next to a major city like Manchester or London or anything like that. Like, it's kind of tucked away up northeast. So there's not much around. And we used to go and watch local wrestling shows when they'd come to town, but it was just this traveling one that would be there once or twice a year called All Star Wrestling, which we'll get to at some point in this podcast. But yeah, there was one that just came to a random community centre, and it looked every part of what you'd expect an independent wrestling show to look at the time. This is before they had the indoor smoking ban in England, so the room is filled with smoke. It smells of like just fried food, and it's this little dingy. And I fell in love with that instantly. Like, there was something about it that I was like, I know that this is like low budget, but I kind of love this for like this atmosphere. And anyway, so then we was just engrossed with the show. yeah, it wasn't the best, but we knew that it wasn't going to be the best. But then they had flyers for a training school, and it was like, well, this is the first time we'd ever heard of a wrestling training school. So we're 15 years old. Like, yeah, this is what at that point, I was 10 years old when I decided I wanted to be a professional wrestler. I was a lot of people my generation, WrestleMania 17, but I was a big Undertaker fan as a kid. And I remember, like, after he beats Triple H and he's draped off the middle rope and he's got the blood trickling down his forehead, and he looks out at the Astrodome, which is in his hometown, and says, "This is my fucking yard." And like over 60,000 people. And I just remember it resonated so deep with me as a child, thinking, I want to have that effect on people. Like, they don't know him personally, and Mark Calloway, that man in the ring there, didn't know Nathan Irwin, this kid in Hull, England. It was just a fan of him, but it affected me on like an emotional level, and I wanted to do that. Like, that was the turning point where I'm like, I don't just want to be a fan of this. I want to do it. Like, I have to do that. That looks like the coolest job in the world. And so, yeah, 15, I finally get this opportunity of a training school. So we started there. And, yeah, he was, we didn't know that he was a bit of a shyster, really. He was just kind of, he's teaching us things incorrectly that we later found out. And yeah, he was just kind of taking money off us. Like, we never got paid for any shows that we did for him. And then we later found out that he was getting a deal that was giving him so much money to use so many of his students or whatever. So, yeah, it was just a very ugly situation, but thankfully we got out of there, and I got by on the fact that I was very charismatic. Like, I did acting on as well as that would be like something I was interested in, that I studied at college, and so that just helped me with wrestling. It helped me be flamboyant. It helped me have a character, and it helped get me noticed enough to be able to be pulled away from there and taken on by other promotions in the Yorkshire region. And then people kind of took me under the wing from there and started teaching me on the road and on the job, which was, immensely beneficial to me. And I just, that was it. That was really where it started to snowball for me.
Yeah.
Here we go.
What would you say like the most best opponent that you're most proud of wrestling?
What's the what? Sorry.
So you're most proud of wrestling, like the opponent you're most proud of wrestling, saying, "Man, I can't believe I got this match with this person," or you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's weird, like, because they mean more to me after, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because it's always about how the audience reacted to it, and if I got them to where I wanted them to be. Like, I mean, just recently I had an incredible one back in England, literally the day before I flew to the United States. It was a culmination of a storyline that had been going on for about 18 months, and me and my tag team partner was losing the tag titles to the ultimate underdog was on one half of the other team, and just the journey that we took the crowd on, and hearing the reactions, the things like that. Those are the things that I'm always the most proud of. Like, it's cool that I've had opportunities. Like, I've wrestled for the WWE on a few occasions. I had tryouts for them. I got a contract offer from them in 2016, and I've done national television for ITV. That was a huge honor to be asked to do that World of Sport return. And there's all those cool things, but it's always it's feeling those audience moments. And so, if you ask me what's my favorite, it's normally the last one that I've had them exactly where I want them, in the palm of my hand, and feeling them bite on everything that I'm wanting them to bite on. And I just, those are the moments that I am truthfully the most proud of, and especially when it's respected from my peers around me as well. It isn't just the audience that are reacting to it. I come back and my peers are telling me, Canel Nath, he did it again. Like, that means the world to me.
That's awesome.
I got a question. So what do you prefer, being a tag team specialist or a singles competitor?
I honestly have no preference. Like, I've had so much fun doing both, and in so many different variations as well. I've had when I started out and I was a lot smaller, because when I first started in wrestling, I had no mass on me. I had to really work hard to get my size up. And so to begin with, I was just this pretty boy, prima donna, feather boa wearing, dickhead that would just get, battered around the ring, and I enjoyed doing that like for a while, and that was, and then you want more, and then you start seeing the mask come on, and then you start moving up in card positions and altering your character and things like that, and it's all that type of thing that really I can't really, it's hard to put a finger on it, and really. So go back to the original question. I started going on a tangent there and I lost myself.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I do that all the time. Geek has to like pull the leash.
It happened. Yeah, sorry. What was the original question? Sorry.
I was saying like, do you prefer like being in a tag team with somebody?
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, sorry.
Like being so I went old school and I call it tag team specialist. Like,
yeah. So no, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, and then it's on Lord's journey. Sorry, that was my point. That like you go into different positions within tag team wrestling. It's like my first tag team partner was a lot bigger than me, and so he was called Colossus Kennedy, and we used to play off like the old Shawn Michaels Diesel dynamic, and then incorporate our own little ideas and things, and then going into Progress Wrestling, I had a really good time with tag team wrestling there, and then at that point, I was still to this day, I'm very good friends with Cash Wheeler. Which is why I'm actually in the United States right now, and he's so knowledgeable of that stuff that it was at that point in my career when I was doing the tag team things in Progress Wrestling to be able to pick his brain and then apply it out there, and then over the years being able to go onto the camp shows and practice those type of things out there and experiment with stuff myself. I love both. Like the tag team run that I've just done in British Wrestling Revolution with Matt Myers has been one of my favourite parts of my career, hands down. Like it's just been so much fun. He and I go way back to when we were 7 years old. Just being kids, have been dreaming of being wrestlers. We've done awesome storylines against each other at New Generation Wrestling, and done some sell-out main events against each other in singles matches again, which are some of the most favourite moments of my career. But then to be able to then have the success alongside him in the tag team, and the moment you put in a tag team, to me, or in a tag team match, you have an instant gimmick to play with, and you instantly separates you from the rest of the card, and it gives you so much more creative freedom if you really allow it to be. And tag team wrestling, thanks to teams like FTR, has hit an all-time boom in enthusiasm, and people want to pay attention to tag team matches more because it isn't just getting swept under the carpet like it was for so many years at WWE, where it was, let's just, we're going to build a feud with these guys, so let's put them together as a tag team for a bit. And they didn't build proper tag teams for a long period of time. And they're now seeing what they've accomplished, and how that's spread across the scene globally is phenomenal. And you have all these incredible tag teams now all over the world. Aussie Open, one that comes to mind. And then seeing like these two British lads called the Young Guns, another called R&R, who trained with myself, and just look at what's going on in tag team wrestling. I think that's awesome. So I personally don't have a preference. I'm good with either. I'm happy. I'm happy as long as I'm wrestling. I'm happy.
Yeah. And FTR is killing it right now. Did you happen to see the match with the Briscoes at Ring of Honor or no? Dude, I don't know if Joe saw it. I don't know if Joe, you saw it.
Crazy,
dude.
Yeah, make it mandatory viewing. It's incredible.
Yeah, I gotta check that out now.
Yeah. Ring of Honor. What was it? Death Before Dishonor.
Yeah.
FTR versus Briscoes, 2 out of 3 falls. Insane. They went 40 minutes. Those guys are insane. Yeah.
It was incredible. It was absolutely outstanding. Just a true professional wrestling work of art.
Right. And the Briscoes still going today, man, at their age, and man, that isn't as just showing. Let's not put all the attention just on FTR, because the Briscoes are there as well and doing absolutely fantastic stuff. Yeah. But back to the interview. Well, one question for you is, like, you're a heel, right? So what would you say?
Predominantly, yeah.
Predominantly. Although
my next booking, I think I am. I'm gonna try and make people like me.
Oh, jeez. Oh, God. The heel said, he was like, do I really want people to like me? That's why when I introduced you, and I said, introduce yourself, like, I'm like, why would they not be? You know what I mean? The heel in that moment, like, of course they gotta know about me.
It's like I'm knowing all of my accomplishments. There we go.
Because I've had heels get mad at me when I do that on the podcast. Like, I'm like they know me. Why wouldn't they know about me, Joe? Like, I'm a bad guy. Everybody knows about me.
He does his famous.
Yeah, like
he does.
And there's times for me to turn on the character, and then when I do things like these, like I'd rather just people kind of. Because for years I did do like I would do some of these interviews and would do them in character, and then people would just assume that he's a dick, you know, in real life he's a dick, and people just like you know don't want to work or whatever. Like it was just like, oh, well, actually, I think I'm just gonna stop. Like wrestling's changed for what you know, whether I like that fact or I don't agree with that fact. It's just a reality. So yeah, I just do these as myself now, and yeah, I don't like to talk about and it's not that I don't like to talk about my accomplishments or anything like that. Like if somebody brings it up, yeah, cool, but I don't want to be the one sat in the room going, hey, guess what I did? Like it's who gives a toss about a dickhead like that?
Yeah.
Like no.
Like we've had a wrestler come on the podcast before the show. He was cool as cucumber, so nice, so sweet. Camera turned on, he went to pure meanie mode. I was like, dude, what the hell?
Yeah, and me and Joe during the interview could hardly tell. Is this guy kayfabing us or is he being for real?
And like a few days later, I'm not gonna say the names. I had to I went on my own Instagram and said, "Do you really hate me? Do you really want to toss me through a certain wooden object that they eat food on?" I'm not gonna say what, and I'm like, he's like, no, Joe, I would never do that, dude. You're a nice guy. And I'm just
I'm kayfabing, brothers.
I'm like, are you sure you don't want to throw me through a table? Because I'm getting that sense. Do I have to call my mom to add it to the will that I'll be in a wheelchair at 60?
You got whacked.
Yeah.
We got worked exactly.
I like it.
I got worked hard.
I like it when we get worked because then me and Joe don't know the difference.
And the audience think that they're being mean because we had a female wrestler, not saying names again, that she was just I got so excited we had her, and all I'm gonna say is I flipped the abbreviation for her letters into the back end of the letter, and she.
You said you messed up my name. You messed up my name.
She railed me, and the girl that was in the chat thought she was a young wrestling fan, thought I was being mean. She was being mean to me. And in the chat, she was like, leave him alone. Leave Joe alone. Stop it. Be nice to Joe. And I was like, I didn't want to say, girl, relax. I didn't know either. I was like, but long story short, went to a wrestling show. She was there. I walked up to the table. She was sitting at her table, and I went, blah, blah, blah. And she did this. Boy, I'm not ready yet. You know. And I was like, no, I'm just kidding. I know your name goes the other way. And she was like, only you, Joe. Only you, man. I was about to slap you out of your shoes. It was like, I knew just to get you all dusted up. The girl, she didn't even have her hair done yet. She, you know, when you go to shows, you set up your table.
All right, back to the interview now.
Back to the interview. Next question, Geekums.
Go ahead.
Okay, I got it. Is there any wrestlers that since you've been in the States you've seen on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube that you're like, man, I hope I can wrestle this person?
So actually, I saw him last time I wrestled in the United States before the pandemic in 2020. I was working for PWX, and in part of their X16, I was in a fatal four-way with Lucky Ali, and I saw him again the other night at New Japan Strong. He was wrestling a good friend of mine, John Schuyler, and they had an outstanding match. And I'd just seen how much Lucky had come on. He'd clearly not wasted the last 2.5 years and everything that's gone on with the pandemic and stuff. He's clearly still been putting in the work, and I was really impressed by him enough that I really do want to get back in there with him and in a singles match, in that situation where I can actually work with and see get a great feel for what he's really like in there. And but I was really impressed by him. Really impressed by Lucky Ali. So he's somebody I'd say like that in the a few shows that I have been to keep an eye on. He's and then because all my bookings now in August, so like I haven't seen it much outside of that. But Lucky Ali in particular is somebody I've been very impressed with.
Yeah. There's some places you would love to travel to that you have not traveled to, but you pretty much traveled everywhere. I was gonna say.
I mean, there's a few places in the United States that I still want to go, like New York, for example. I've never been to New York. It'd be cool to see and experience. I'm not a big fan of London, so I imagine that I don't want to stay in New York for a while. Like I'm a bit like right now, I'm out in a cabin in the middle of North Carolina, and I love that. Like that's very much me. But I'd still like to experience New York. That'd be cool. But Japan's always been the big one for me. Like that's the one that's eluded me, and I've always wanted to go to Japan because as a kid, if there was something I loved other than professional wrestling, it was old school Godzilla movies. It was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and like they both came from Japan. Like I've always wanted to go and visit Japan and wrestle there. And I love how their culture respects professional wrestling as a sport. So yeah, it's the one place that's always eluded me that I do want to get to.
Japan's the top place for geek too because of I'm the biggest geek and nerd right there, so it's got to be Pokemon.
Yeah.
Pokemon right there.
I'll be dragging away trying to get into a wrestling show as he'll be trying to the bootleg Pokemon stand. They'll be the store right outside the stage.
He's like, oh my God, it's a Pokemon Center. We have to go.
But I need one more card, Joe. Geek, we're going to a show. No.
But they're Japanese Pokemon cards.
Yeah,
imported. They're imported.
Okay, so I remember those as a kid being like mega rare. Like Pokemon's not something I've kind of held on to as I've got older. But Godzilla and Power Rangers is like I still collect that stuff like in my toy room.
Yeah.
Like so.
Go on, you start.
No, go ahead, Joe. I cut you off.
So like, as we you were talking about people you want to wrestle. Is there like any when you go back home? Is there any promotions that you have not like worked with that you're like craving to go for, like a Coventry Pro or like a
Rev Pro? Rev Pro that's the only one now. Like, and I've been very fortunate in 16 years that I have in the United Kingdom wrestled pretty much every major promotion that's ever been like in that time period. From ICW to Progress, New Generation Wrestling in the UK, but Rev Pro has always been the one that's like I've never worked with Quilden. The one time that he didn't want to use me, I was doing extra work for WWE at the time, and then there was another occasion where we just couldn't line up dates, and it's just never been an opportunity that's arisen since. But I'd love to go there, like because if anything, Andy's still killing it. He's from coming out of the pandemic. A lot of promotions in the United Kingdom have struggled, but I've seen just how well Rev Pro is still doing, and I think that's awesome. Okay, I don't really admire that. So yeah, that's the only place in the UK that has kind of still on that bucket list. That before whatever happens with my life in the next few years, whether I decide to continue doing this or I don't, like it's that'd be something I'd like to be able to do before whatever happens in the next chapter of my life.
Yeah, so Rev Pro and Progress and WWE are kind of like a thing now, right? Where they're like together, right?
Progress and WWE are, yes, Rev Pro
and ICW.
Rev Pro, ICW are as well, but Rev Pro are more associated with New Japan.
Yeah, and those are like Rev Pro is pretty much like the freestanding, like on its own promotion. They're not working with anybody. I mean, they're working with people, but they're kind of
they're still very much themselves. Yeah, they're still Rev Pro. Like they work alongside New Japan on certain projects, but they are just their own promotion.
Their own thing.
They do very good business. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was something you said before. You said you wanted to go on and keep talking about. Like I forgot what the topic was. You were talking about.
It might have been All Star Wrestling.
If you want to talk more about All Star Wrestling, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I wouldn't be the wrestler I am today if it weren't for All Star Wrestling. So, when I was a kid, the traveling show that used to come to our city once or twice a year was All Star Wrestling. I used to go watch it at the whole City Hall. And I remember being about 13 years old, and we got the event program. I turned to Myers. Me and him who went to watch the show, and we saw on the back of the program they had all the dates that All Star would do across the country. And I remember saying to Matty at the time, saying like, if we ever became wrestlers, this is where we'd have to get to, because this is how you make it a full-time job in this country. So when I started in wrestling, like that was my first like major goal, was to get to All Star Wrestling. Like I had little goals, like realistic goals that I call stepping stones to get to the next one. So like my major goal, obviously ultimate at that time, was I want to get signed to WWE, but I'm just a trainee. So first stepping stone, get on a show. After that, like let's start doing a few more singles matches. Let's start doing, and get more repetitions in basically just doing more shows. Then I want to start spreading out, and then eventually from getting spreading out, I want to be able to do a few where I might get noticed by somebody who knows someone at All Star. That is where I aspired to get to, because for my money, that is where the best of the best have come out of the United Kingdom, where and people have travelled to come work for All Star Wrestling. They've been running since 1970 as Brian Dixon. So from Jushin Thunder Liger, Daniel Bryan, Cash Wheeler, that's how he and I met. John Schuyler, as I just mentioned, they all came over. Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, like it's a who's who of Natty Neidhart. They all came over and worked for Brian Dixon and worked for All Star Wrestling. And then you have British legends on top of that, like Robbie Brookside, Frankie Sloan, James Mason, and then who would go on to become modern day greats: Rampage Brown, Robbie Dynamite, Dean Allmark. As a young wrestler, I thankfully I got an opportunity with them when I was 19, and Brian was impressed enough that he took me on to the full-time team. So at that point, I've been wrestling 3 years, coming on 4 years, and I got to where I wanted to be. That was when I could quit my little call center job that I had on the side with wrestling, and then wrestling just became my full-time job, because with Brian, you would be wrestling normally around 4 to 5 times a week minimum. And then, especially when the summer season came, you're talking. There was a week me and Cash were wrestling against each other, and pretty much every day we was doing 2 shows a day, except one where we'd do 3 in a day, and it was ridiculous. Like that was you come out of that in 6 days, you'd do 10 shows. Wow. And I started, I started getting those opportunities at 19, 20 years old, and the talent that I was always in there with, it would be, that summer that me and Cash was working against each other. There was Skylar there, Hiromu Takahashi was there. We had a really good team. The Bravado brothers, I know him as Clint, and he's now doing the Chase U thing in NXT. He was there. He was on that team. We had a really good team of hardworking young lads who all had, the same love of wrestling, and we knew how to have fun away from wrestling. But when it came to the show, like we were all business, and we all wanted to be the best on the show. We all wanted to help each other. It was just, I'm very, very grateful of it, just because of the brotherhood that I've still got to this day with some of those people that you connected from all over the world. And All Star awarded me that opportunity. And I got to wrestle in the whole City Hall for All Star Wrestling. I've got to do every major venue in Town Hall for them, and I know at one point, like Brian Dixon really held me in high regard. Like he was very proud of me, and would put quite a bit of focus on my matches on the show, and that is a credit to his team. His team made me that way, because when I first joined All Star, my mindset was, I've learned everything I need to get here. Now I'm starting all over again, pretty much. Like, teach me. Like, you guys are the absolute best in the country. And we got visiting talent. Gangrel. God, as if I'm forgetting about Gang. He was there my first year, and it's like, get to pick his brain. Oh, did you see my stuff? And yeah. Like, I'd come back from a match, and I used to video record them all back then. and I'd have Rampage waiting for me because Rampage took me under his wing. He was like a huge mentor to me in 2010. Like he took me under his wing and really started to. He's been like a big brother to me ever since, and still is to this day. But he'd be waiting, like, okay, Nathan, you did this wrong. Correct this, correct this, correct this. All right, cool. And then Frankie Sloan would be my referee sometimes, and I'd be, okay, Frankie, did you? Okay, yeah, Cruzy, you need to work on this. You need to do that. All right, cool. And then I'd sit in the car with Robbie Dynamite, and he would go over the match with me, like he'd watch it back with me. And okay, pause. Okay, what about if you tried this at this point? And so the very next day, I get to go out and do all that again. And then, okay, well done, you corrected that, but then you also did this and you did this. And then you got Brian also giving you the direction as well. Like, oh, Brian, how was that? And like, oh, well, I'd like you to do this. And you just learn so much so quickly. And the wrestler that I became just after those first 6 weeks with All Star Wrestling, working that often and around the talent that was around, it just transformed me and it gave me so much confidence in the ring and my own ability. Because how could I not have learned from the best?
Yeah, what year did you work with Hiromu?
2013. That was that.
So he was still a young lion, right? Or
yes, yeah, and God bless him. He really broke. I think he broke his wrist just before he come over. So he was working with one arm.
Wow.
But he, just absolutely loved it. Wanted to work through it and still be part of the team. Bless him. But we had some really good. There's some good tag team matches there with. I think there was one where it was me and John Schuyler against Ken Bai from Michinoku Pro and Hiromu Takahashi. There's definitely one with me and Cash Wheeler against them two in that tag team that we did at Minehead Butlins Camp Show. Like there was just it's mental now. You look at some of those cards that went on, but before that, we were looking back at the old ones of the wrestlers that have been on the teams, like say 5-6 years prior to us. We're going, oh my God, there's Sheamus, and there's Drew, and there's Natty Neidhart, and there's oh God, he had Bryan Danielson was here as well. Like there's all these incredible names that have worked for All Star Wrestling. It's just got such a great history, and it's to this day I'm so proud. Like I know that Brian Dixon himself now is getting on and he's starting to wind down, but his grandson Joe is now going to be taking over, and All Star's going to continue, which is beautiful because at this point. In 2020, just before the lockdown, they've been running for 50 years. 50 years.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Brian Dixon is to my knowledge, is the longest running promoter now. Because he's outdone Vince, obviously, who was just recently retired. So Brian's been doing this that long. And
wow.
Yeah. And I'm still, so I get a bit emotional even sometimes when I think about the opportunity he gave me at 19. I wouldn't have gone on to do the things that I did with my career as the first Progress champion. I mean, funny story, I got the booking for Progress and the opportunity to be their first ever champion because they were at an All-Star Wrestling show down near London in a place called Gravesend, and they were scouting for talent before they started the company. And they saw me, contacted me, was entertained by what I did, and we went from there and what became a very good working relationship for a few years there. But that was, again, that came from me working for All Star Wrestling, and it's mad that I just think of the impact that promotion has had on my life. I'm so grateful to Brian. I love him. I genuinely do.
Yeah, and you mentioned the names from prior. You say, "Wow, those are big names right there," and then you look back and you're like, wow, my name is a part of history right now with Cash Wheeler, Hiromu Takahashi on there as well. So
Robbie Brookside, William Regal right there,
wow,
Dave Taylor, Fit Finley. Honestly, you could just go Marty Jones. You could go on and on and on. It's a who's who of just incredible, legitimate professional wrestling legends. That would be considered not only that by the fans but by their peers as well. These are legit incredible talents that have come through the doors there. And I know I'll have fond memories there as well. I don't know Daniel Bryan that well, but I know that Cash does, and they both say that they'd love to be able to go back and do a week working for Bryan again. Because they have so much fond memories of working for Bryan and how much it helped them at that point in their career as well.
That's amazing, dude.
Wow. So
Yeah.
pretty much my last question for you is, we have what if there was a fan out there that wanted to become a wrestler, what kind of advice would you give them and why?
It depends on how old they are. So give me an age.
Ugh,
So I do coach back in England, so this is.
do you
always
want me
like,
to go by the
I'm
age
used to
we
questions.
normally we're used to hearing the wrestlers start the age at like 10 or
In the United
9 or
States?
American?
If you're saying 10 or 9, I'm saying don't get involved in wrestling yet. Get involved in a team sport and get involved in theatre. Like those two things are going to help you immensely. Obviously, in the United States, you guys have wrestling at schools, so by all means, join that, do that. We don't have that in the United Kingdom, unfortunately. Always frustrated me at school, that did. But yeah, if you're somebody of say 16 upwards and now you want to start getting into wrestling, have a backup plan, for crying out loud. Don't neglect an education. I was an eggs in one basket kind of guy, and at times it's put a lot of stress on me. So yeah, I'd always say have a backup plan. But yeah, other than that, like, you just be prepared to be very selfish. You have to be selfish if you want to be successful at this, especially early on. You know, I've been so fortunate that the woman I call my fiance now has supported me the way she has over the last decade, pretty much 9 years that we've been together, and she's just you know, to put up with how long I go away traveling, and you know, sometimes it just what an incredible person she is in my life. When you know, over things in the past, like here's a prime example of it. I think is I was wrestling Jeff Jarrett for Global Force Wrestling in Grimsby in the United Kingdom. I got a booking about 3 months prior, something like that. Unfortunately, in that time period, my grandmother passed away, and it just so happened that the funeral. It's okay. This was a while ago, and she lived to be 91, and she passed in the most, and she passed in the most wonderful way. But yeah, the day of the funeral was also the evening that I'm wrestling Jeff Jarrett, and it was the most surreal. Like, so what do? Do you pass on the opportunity? Would my grandma want me to pass on the opportunity? I can make both. I'm gonna do both, and I did. And you have to be prepared to be in those situations and not let it affect you. And you know, I had a very surreal 24 hours personally. Nobody at the show other than Rampage knew what I was going through. He was the only one that knew. I didn't want people to know. What made it more emotional for me was like me and my dad. I've got a story about my dad as well. Actually, I'll quickly share with you after this. Me and my dad, when we used to watch wrestling when I was a kid, my dad used to love WCW and used to love Jeff Jarrett for the term slapnuts. Right, so it's so cool that I'm wrestling him that night. And then I came back after the match and I was at Sarah, and he said, "Yeah, have you been doing this a while?" I was like, "At that point, I've been wrestling 8 years." So yeah, 8 years. And he was like, "You can tell because you're really good." And I was like, "Oh wow," you know, trying to hold the apple in my throat there, and left. And yeah, but again, you have to be prepared for those type of things to happen. Are you going to be able to cope with that situation? Are you going to? It's all a mental thing. It really is. That's the biggest thing. You have to 100% believe that you can do this and that you want to do this, because you are gonna. Again, my dad. So I returned from a tour of Ireland, and I got in very late, thankfully, because then I slept into the afternoon. This is back in 2010. I come downstairs, and I think my dad's asleep in his chair. Dad, wake up! You know, go to your allotment, do something. And all of a sudden, I hear this crash, and he actually had a stroke. My dad's still alive, but he had a really serious stroke, and he couldn't move his arm. You know, to this day, he can't speak properly. It was a really bad stroke. I managed to get him to the ambulance, call my mum, and let her know what's going on and stuff. But literally 2 days later, I've got to go away for 3 days for Brian. Well, I can stay at home if I have to, but then how am I going to pay for my dog's food? How am I going to pay my mum the rent? Like, I'm self-employed. I'm going to have to do this. How am I going to afford? At the time, my girlfriend at the time lived out of town, and I didn't drive. I had to afford a coach ticket to go see her. So you know what I mean? Like, you're in those situations where it's like, and there was another thing. My girlfriend lived out of town at that time, and there's a lot of traveling and stuff like that. But again, I will say the traveling is also some of the best part of it. Like, we joke sometimes where we get to the show and we're like, oh, the wrestling's getting in the way of a good time here. Like, we all had, like, you know, you get a good car of talent, no matter who it is. As long as they're good people, you can all have a good conversation. Like, it's, you know, it's sometimes one of the best parts of the profession. But yeah, you have to be prepared for it, and like there is a lot of traveling involved and stuff like that. No matter where you are, whether you're in the UK or whether you're in the United States, whether you're in Japan, or if you're traveling between the three of them, like a Will Ospreay or an Aussie Open or any of those guys that are currently like on those insane schedules, and it's just, you know, more power to. There was a point in my career I was having to fly to France every weekend, because that was where I was booked for like the next 3 months, was every Friday, Saturday, Sunday spend in France. So fly out, navigate myself the way through Paris, find this little cafe that they've told me to go meet at, jump in a bus, where we're going, I don't know, something French, I can't really understand the pronunciation of it, and then do the show. The shows wouldn't finish till 11 p.m. Then they'd have like this buffet set out for the wrestlers, which was just French bread, ham, cheese, and all the things that we shouldn't really be eating at that time of the evening. Then you'd go to like the tiniest little like travel in, like there was these little budget ones that you'd share with a wrestler from Belgium, a wrestler from Germany, a wrestler from Italy. You're just getting to know these strangers and hope that they don't snore too loud. And then the next day, and then, you know, by the Sunday, it would be, I'd finish the show, and then they'd drive me straight to the airport, and I'd just have to sit around for like 5 or 6 hours till the first flight back to England, and then off I'd go. A friend would pick me up at the airport, and it was, you know, I look back at it now and go, how the heck did I do that? Like, it's certain, you know, there was a lot of lack of sleep, not good nutrition, and you're trying to maintain a physique in pro wrestling and look after your body and all these things. And so, yeah, there's a lot to take on that I think people don't understand. And in this era, in this generation, like, just prepared to get good mental health practice in, because people love to attack on social media. They don't give a shit. They'll troll, and for every good comment you may hear about your career and what you're doing, it will always be those negative ones that will unfortunately hit you at times. And, you know, sometimes they can really be bad. I mean, I have a Twitter page, but it isn't me running it, because I don't want to be anywhere near that thing anymore. Like, I just leave it in charge of somebody else to kind of take care of for me, because, you know, those things are, and it is a necessity. So it's up to you if you want to deal with it yourself or not. You know, it's me that manages my Instagram, for example, but like, you have to, in this era, that's a big part of it. It's gonna knock you. You're gonna have times where you're like, wow, what am I doing this for again? Because I enjoy it, but I also enjoy taking the audience on a journey. But then, you know, some of these audience members are real pieces of shit.
Yeah, definitely.
We've had people give us the friendly candy bar, and then they hit us in the back of the head with the slapjack.
Yeah. Okay. Right. See what I mean? Things like that. That I just like. Come on. Like, and this is the thing that I always think about. And, you know, whether you fought back or you didn't fight back, at some point in everyone's life, from that audience to the talent in the ring, we were all picked on for being wrestling fans. At some point, I guarantee it. It happened to everybody. Like, say, like, I was somebody who fought back. Not everybody was, and that's not. You know, that doesn't make anything different. We were all at some point a victim of being a fan of this, and we're now in an environment where we all enjoy this. So let's just enjoy it together, for fuck's sake. Like, let's stop trying to tear everything apart and be the world's worst critic because it gets a lull online. Support it, because the longer you support it, the longer it continues, the longer you get fresh talent coming through, the longer the people can provide for their families. The business will always then be there for generations to come. And then guess what? You're going to have kids one day, and you can take them to wrestling shows that you thought were hokey, and because, you know, for whatever purpose you've said that about a wrestling show, but you realise then through the eyes of a parent, oh, actually, this is a wrestling show my kid can really enjoy, and I can take my kid and introduce them to professional wrestling, and then they're going to grow up and want something a bit more edgy, and then you can go to those things with your kid, and that's a beautiful thing where it continues, and we're getting to entertain you with that. That's, to me, like, I just fucking love pro wrestling.
This is why we love this stuff so much, Nathan, because like now, me and Geek, if we can go back in the time machine and meet me and Geek walking around campus of the school we went to, and tell them that me and him, well, I'd be talking to me and he'd be talking to him. We're talking to pro wrestlers, but we are now talking to indie wrestlers from all over the world, like not just America, people in England, Scotland.
If I could travel back in time and tell my past self that, I would say, you're fucking crazy.
No,
It's
first
cool,
myself
right?
would be like, I'm calling the cops. Who the hell are you, old man? Why are you wearing red glasses, loser?
And that's what I've always. That's one thing that it's not what I've always loved about, but it's definitely something that I really do appreciate about it. It's just how connected I am with so many people from so many different parts of the world. Like I say, I consider Cash as somebody who's close to me as a brother, and then I've got other friends from Sean Custom from Australia, who and that's, you know, Australia, America, UK, and then there's acquaintances that you meet on the way. I saw Humo just this past weekend at New Japan Strong, and it was, oh, Humo, and we're like, you know, we're laughing about that summer from 9 years ago that we were together on, and that's crazy. That's just crazy. When I have moments that I can just sit and think, and I do a lot of meditation now, and I kind of just think about what's gone on in my day, and then how did I meet that person? How am I connected to them? Oh yeah, it's wrestling. Like, it always comes down to, that's like the root of it for me. But it's so cool that that's this, from just enjoying something on television with my dad as a kid, has grown and blossomed into this incredible thing that's structured my life. You know, because that's all I've done for my adult life is being a professional wrestler, really. And this is it's the coolest thing on earth. It really is. Like you said, just the fact that you get to interview professional wrestlers from all over the world, like, that's so cool.
It blows my mind. It feels like now that we be doing this, like it's also, both of us are kind of doing what we dreamed of doing, and we never thought of it. Me and Geek. I guess I made Geek and me, and then I said Meeker. You became Meeker. Geek. You just became
Meeker now. You're Meeker now.
Meeker. Like me and Geek met doing like college radio. So this is kind of like our dream. We kind of like accomplished that PlayStation check mark. We got the we're kind of like radio disc jockeys in a way, because like we talk to people on microphones. So it's like we're kind of like a radio host. So not really, but kinda.
No, that's cool though. Yeah, you're still getting to do. You're getting to put your passion into a project.
Yeah.
Good things always come from those situations.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why I have my fun radio microphone that my parents got me for my birthday one year. I was like, yes, at that.
So where can people find you, Nathan? Exactly.
So yeah, you follow me on Twitter at Nathen_cruz90, and that's, I'll just keep up to date with like my appearances and things like that. Just a social. Instagram, same, Nathen_cruz90. And again, just see what I'll do in wrestling. There's nothing personal on there. That's my Facebook. Don't add me on Facebook. That's my personal space with friends and family. I always, and that ain't just to you guys. That's to everybody. Like I don't accept friend requests on Facebook. Like, I'll send one to somebody, but yeah, like, I'm very private on there. I like to keep that part of my life as private as I possibly can. So please respect that. But yeah, check out my YouTube channel. I was just saying before this started, the problem with YouTube nowadays is that so many promotions do on demand it. It's difficult to get hold of your footage to be able to put onto a free online service, but there's the odd match that I've been able to get online over the years. But yeah, or just search for Nathen Cruz on there. Any of my stuff from New Generation Wrestling UK, I'm extremely proud of. There's 3 main events with Matt Myers, like that I'd say all sell a connecting story, culminates in a cage match. And there was 3 years, like each one was a year apart. We main evented the same show. Each one was a sellout. And I just love the intertwined story between those 3. Very proud of those matches. But yeah, there's loads of my stuff online on YouTube throughout the years. So just check it out. If you like it, awesome. If you don't, sorry, I'm not your cup of tea. But wrestling's the variety show.
Yes.
Wrestling is the ultimate variety show. We can't, everybody's got a favorite. That's what's good about it.
That's what I like about wrestling. You don't have to like everybody, but if they don't like you, screw them.
Some people think the Big Show is boring. Other people are just amazed to see a giant punch somebody in the fucking face.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's what's cool. That's what's cool about pro wrestling.
Yep.
So, Nathen, we want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. You seem
Thank
super
you, guys.
busy.
Appreciate it.
You're
It's
super
only
awesome.
literally because I'm finishing up. Like I've been in North Carolina the last 2 weeks, and I'm finishing up for a bit, and I'm going back to Orlando, and I've got a flight tomorrow morning. So that was the only reason I was busy today, really.
Yeah.
I was obviously away this past weekend, but yeah, thank you very much, guys, for having me on. I do appreciate it.
So, thank you. So,
Go for it, Geek.
Awesome.
all right, I'm the Metal Geek.
I'm Joe Panther the Third. Your turn.
And I'm Nathen Cruz. I have to do one. I didn't know I had to do one.
Yeah.
Yes, we always do that. And we will catch you in the next one.